get is y'all don't know anything about racing. This is true. You're right. You're in the wrong show.
Yeah.
You're watching the wrong show if you want to hear like super engineer stuff.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Hitting the Apex. Vish here with my man Evan. Evan, how's it going, man?
What's going on? What's going on?
We are once again absent Mr. Santana here. Yet he did have a last minute work commitment. We'll save it for the end of the show, but I do have his predictions this time, so you'll get to
nice.
We'll reveal what he said. Shout out to Dan Barry in the chat. So Evan, when we last spoke, Carlos Sainz coming off a win, and now we head to. I know what's one of your favorite circuits, Japan.
For sure, Suzuka is a great track, man. It's always lends itself to great racing. It's a classic track, something that's fast, that's flowing, that's basically a perfectly designed track. Overall, a lot of high speed play or spots. S1 or I think it's called S130R or something like that. I believe. Well, the Honda test track for many years. This is just a track that a lot of these drivers know, and a lot of people just know overall. If you've played any video game, if you're any of our ages, Suzuka. This is one of those pinnacle tracks for everybody, like Monaco, like a lot of the other some of the other tracks in Formula One. It's not like a newer one. It's been around since longer than I've been alive, at least. I don't know about you, but longer than I've been alive, at least.
Yeah, and like it says on the screen, first race was in 1987. Here, there have been years because they use another track in Japan as well. I think Fuji.
Mount Fuji.
That's also been used at times, but this one is definitely the definitive Japanese track. Used to be the year ender. When they used to end in Europe, in Asia. Now it's kind of the calendar seems to switch around every year, but this time it's towards the beginning of the calendar. Like you said, classic track. I'm pretty sure it's the only existing track right now where it's a figure eight where you drive, over the track. I don't think another one's doing that now. There had been some in other years, some of the older tracks, but I think it's the only one that still maintains that. Should be a fun race out to we always have the Sones crew showing up in numbers. So like you said, it's a classic track. Obviously things are a little bit spicier after what happened in Australia with the standings tightening up big time, but I guess let's start with that. You kind of talked about the track a little bit. What characteristics are you looking for here? Where are you looking to see the definitive place? Because there's not, this is a very high-speed corner track, which the drivers love. Doesn't always lend itself to the best overtaking opportunities. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the race here.
Yeah, the biggest overtaking opportunities are right there. Turns right in the blue section. I can't really see on my computer. Is a little bit too small. 8 and 9. That's usually a pretty good overtaking spot going into the hairpin on turn 10 or turn 11. And then coming
10 into 11.
Yeah, right there's usually some good fighting in there. Also, the chicane in turn 16 and 17 be right before the start finish line, and also turn 15 right there is one of the highest speed portions of any existing track, especially or in going into a turn like that. That left hand kink, has always been primarily a great place to overtake coming out of it. You'll get good runs with the DRS coming into that turn and then going into the chicane at 16 and 17. There'll be a lot of overtaking there. You don't see a lot in the S's. Those S's are kind of notorious for just single file racing through there. We're talking about turns, what is it, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But like I said, going into turn 8 and 9, and then 15 is really what I'll be looking for.
Yeah, and like you said, the S is not really a lot of overtaking opportunities, but probably where you make and break your pole lap.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That's where marginal differences make a big difference. Also, only the one DRS zone across the start finish straight. There is also a long run up to the first corner at the start, so I might see some jockeying coming out of the as the lights go green there at the beginning of the race. So it's an interesting track. It's very and I think one of the cool things here, it's very different from the tracks we've had so far this year. So I mean, I think conventional wisdom is always Red Bull favorite until proven otherwise, but it is a little bit of a different challenge than what we've seen so far. Red Bull while on this show, they got their DRS very right. They get a lot of advantage in the high speed straights, and this one's a little bit more windy and twisty. You might take away a little bit. That might get a little bit more competitive racing.
Yeah. It's just always a fun time watching races at Suzuka. There's a lot of tracks, that you see there's better racing or better qualifying. Monaco obviously comes to mind when you think about that. The qualifying is really the main event for there. Suzuka's one of those tracks that qualifying and the race are going to be entertaining. You're going to see these guys pushing these cars to the limit, going through those S's full throttle, just gunning it through that track. I mean, evidence is, you got Lewis Hamilton, the last year of the last generation of cars has the fastest lap there still. Yeah, I mean, so it's going to be great racing throughout the entire weekend, just because, again, this is one of those tracks that everybody knows. This is one of those tracks that everybody loves. I don't think you're going to see a person here that says that, or a person on this, in that field that are going to say that they don't like this track. What was it? Was this the track that Sebastian Vettel used to go in and do stuff with bees or something, or he's got a bee conservatory there or something like that?
Oh, that's right. That's right. I totally forgot about that. Part of his environmental push is there's a beehive. Also, I'm gonna assume this is family member on your account and you didn't log in.
Oh, what the?
I'm sure it's a family member logged in on YouTube on their account and not you logging in to call.
I wonder who's doing that. That's weird.
I agree with the comment. Great content, Evan.
I wonder who's doing that. That's weird.
No, it's funny. It's obviously you've logged in somewhere and one of your family members is
it's probably my YouTube's account is in the downstairs TV.
It's your dad.
It's
your dad.
Okay, so
nice.
So he's probably downstairs watching it on the TV, because we have YouTube TV, so we have everything in there.
And there's your sister as well. Nice. Family. I feel like I'm interloping on a family reunion here, but
no, you're part of the family, Vish. You got to remember that.
All right, well, there you go. But yeah, no, it is great content. I agree. Evan knows the stuff inside out. That's why he's on the show.
Try.
So, Evan, you did call this out beforehand. We're gonna have it's gonna be a rough weekend. For first practices on the 4th, that's technically Thursday, heading into Friday at 10:30, and then 2 a.m. on Friday morning is practice 2. Friday night heading into Saturday morning is practice 3 at 10:30. Qualifying 2 a.m. on Saturday, and the race 1 a.m. on Sunday
morning. I mean, again, I've said this before with these late night races. They don't affect me much because I'm up anyways being at work. But, it's good, I think, that we're getting a lot of these early races out of the way now. The Bahrain, Jeddah, those races, again, were early as well. We're kind of getting them out of the way earlier in the season, and the ones that are going to be, a little bit more impactful maybe after the summer break, if things keep on going the way that they're going, maybe, and it's a tight race at the top, it'd be nice to have a lot of these races that are more televised in the United States, are more televised, this side of the world, be races that mean something that you know are affecting the championship and stuff like that. I kind of like that a little bit, you know, because when it's down to the wire, you know, last race of the year, something's going on, and you got to wait up until 1 o'clock in the morning to watch a race and stuff like that. For a lot of people, I know it's not going to be a good thing.
Yep. No. Thanks for the kind words from your family. Apparently, we're family now, Evan. So I do appreciate it. I know I'm kind of
F1 family.
No, yeah, for sure. But no, it's nice, kind words from your family. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have a little bit of a controversial take here. I'd rather it be a day race and be at 1 a.m. I for whatever reason, the night race would seem kind of fabricated. I'd probably, because I'm just used to you drive during the day in F1, so I kind of like, even though it's 1 a.m., that it's like during the day. It feels like more of a proper race. Some of these night ones are a little awkward. Yeah. I do like the day racing. So even if that then makes it 1 a.m. for us, which obviously isn't the best.
No, for sure.
Next thing I want to talk about, what do you think about the tire choices? So they went ahead and went with the 3 hardest compounds. So it's C1, C2, C3.
I think overall they're going to try to make it to where it's going to be a one stopper. They don't want it to be a two stopper for this particular race, you know, because of the amount of load that these tires are getting put on them throughout the actual course of the lap, you know, and during the S's at the hairpin at, you know, the I'm blanking on the name right now. I think it's S130R or something like that is the long sweeping left before the long straight towards the end of the lap before turn 15. Because of all the lateral load that are going on these tires, it's gonna eat away at these tires. It's gonna have to. I mean, that's how these tires are designed. They're not designed to last a long time. They're designed to fade away and to give as much grip as possible. And I guess, you know, they do extensive testing throughout the year, and they do extensive testing on the off season. And you know, I guess this is what they're thinking is going to be the most optimal, you know, choice for the weekend. Whether it's going to make for the fastest lap times, I don't know. I don't think so. I think you could have gone one step down and still have made for one stop, but you know that there's going to be those teams that are going to, you know, try to take advantage of it and you know, make it a little bit more dicey with the strategies and stuff like that to try to get, you know, that performance out of it. They, you know, these undercuts are to me, there's how you win or how you lose a race in Formula One right now. And, you know, if you can limit that and keep the field more tightly packed, it's going to make everything better.
Yeah, I do wonder how concerned they are with DEG just generally, because, you know, they rarely go to this step of compounds. And yeah, I agree. I think some people are going to hang it out and try to one stop. I do wonder if they were worried, you know, if it ended up being, let's say, C2 to C4, if like basically the softs would be worthless because they would wear too quickly. Yeah. And you end up, you know, trying almost forced to a 2 stop. So I think this will hopefully give a little bit more variable pit strategies here, which is what their goal usually is to kind of not make it obvious or not, you know, make the optimal strategy a little bit variable. Another curveball thrown into the mix, though, when we talk in tires, is if as of now, it's obviously a few days out, but
the rain.
Yep, it does look like we might have a wet race. It should be okay. There's some small chance of rain on Friday and Saturday, but Sunday, much higher chance of rain, and you know, kind of throughout the day, on and off. So, which is actually in a way what makes it more interesting, because you know, depending on the luck of the draw, you might get you know, some dry laps and some wet laps and some dry laps.
Yeah, some of the best races that in Formula One history have happened in the rain in Japan.
Yeah.
You know, that climate and that, you know, part of the world is, you know, every time you see something that's in Japan, a movie or whatever, it's always raining. Whenever you see any media from it, it's always raining. You know, that it's just a matter of you know, at that track or in Japan, however it may be, you know, that there's always been great racing in the rain. You go back to 1976, you know, the James Hunt versus Niki Lauda, the final race of the year. Niki Lauda backed out of the race because it was raining, and he said it was too much, and he basically gave James Hunt the championship, you know, as immortalized in you the great movie Rush. You see, it's one of those things that you kind of expected, especially this time of year, especially for what's going on. And it's great. It's exciting. I hope it rains because I think it just makes for better or for the best competition. Maybe not the best racing overall because obviously you guys are slipping and sliding around, but it just makes it more exciting. These are the best drivers in the world. Put them in the harshest conditions possible and see what they could do.
Yeah, and especially if if the Red Bull does have probably an expected advantage here, like you said earlier, using your term, it's the equalizer. Bring them closer to the field. Maybe they get the strategy a little wrong. It mixes the order up. We get a little bit more interesting racing versus Max. Just checking out in first place,
for sure.
Which is what we've gotten accustomed to the last couple of years. I'm gonna mix up our running order a little because I want to get your because earlier you mentioned the the S's. Not a great overtaking spot, but the trickiest part of the track, very easy to lose it and ruin your own race. So Williams is still on their no spare chassis. They did replace what was Albon's chassis, and got it to Japan. So they do have both cars ready to run. How cautious? Now. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good point for now, but for two reasons. One, any kind of incident that damages the car, there's no spare.
Exactly.
But also, I mean, sending a damaged car back to the factory from Australia, getting them to quick fix it, send it back. There might be some things wrong there because there's we've talked about this a lot. Not a lot of testing is allowed now, so they kind of just put it back together, repaired it, and sent it all the way back across the world again to Japan to be there for this race. So, big variable there. But how cautious do you think, Williams is instructing their drivers to be in qualifying? Hey, don't, especially in practice, been qualifying as well. You've got to be, don't push it over the limit because we don't have spares.
I mean, James Vowles has come out and said, he's got all the confidence in Logan Sargent. He made a statement on it this past week, and I think that they feel, obviously they feel the same way about Alex Albon. He's their number one driver. You want to be cautious in the sense of you don't want these guys taking any unnecessary risks. But these are the best drivers in the world. They're going to hang it out there. They're going to still push. They're going to still go for those holes because if they don't, and even if the team wants them to be that measure of a little bit more cautious, then they're not racing drivers. They shouldn't be even on the grid if they're not still going to push that car to its limits. I think that they go in there with the mindset of, hey guys, we only have these two chassis. I mean, I'm sure they don't have to say it, to the drivers. The drivers already know this, but I mean, if you're going in there and you're telling your drivers to drive cautiously, make sure you just bring it home, all this stuff, they're going to be 19th and 20th at the end of the day in qualifying and in the race. And that's not what these teams want. I mean, I understand, that they kind of put themselves in a bad position when, they weren't able to get all this done. But I mean, think about it like this also. It's been 2 weeks. You had a car that was completely destroyed and these guys got it fixed and got it back out halfway across the world, just like you said, back and forth across almost the entire globe. So, I mean, these are the best engineers in the world. Maybe not the top best for Williams, but overall, these are some of the best mechanics and engineers and car designers in the world. And at the end of the day, this is racing. Racing cars get damaged, they get broken, they get knocked around. We all like to see these Formula One cars as being these pristine, beautiful, glistening winged machines, but at the end of the day, like, these things are getting banged up constantly. These cars are getting repaired constantly, maybe not to that level that Williams had, but I think that they're still going to let them race. They're still going to let them go hard. They're still going to tell them to push it. If they're fighting it up against an AlphaTauri, they're still going to say go for that hole. They're not going to say back out because we got to make sure your car is okay.
Yeah, no, I agree in the race. I do wonder if they're, especially in practice, if they're like, do not wreck the car. I do have here's a follow-up question. So let's say Mr. Albon wrecks his car again and it's not repairable. You think they repeat the decision they made in Australia, or this time, like, buddy, it's this time Logan gets to race, you're out?
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, they're going to make the decision that they think is going to be best, and whether that's putting Albon in that car, that's what
It
I
did
would.
not work. It did not
Yeah, it
work.
didn't work.
And
It didn't really work out, but they still feel like he probably has the best chance. I now the other thing is, people also mentioned that these cars aren't, whether they're the same car or not. Yeah, like the Red Bulls, everybody, oh, it's the same car. Sergio Perez's car is the same as Max. Max can't just jump into Sergio's car and drive it the same. The seats are all molded. The way the pedal box is shaped, or the pedal box is set up, the way that the steering wheel is set up. All of these things are little bits different, and each chassis feels a little bit different. I wonder if that played some effect into how Albon did during the race. Because again, he's going into this car that he hasn't driven all year. He's going to be in a repaired car now, but at least it was the same chassis. It was the same car that he had before. It's also a mental thing. You get in a car that you haven't driven yet, that you haven't tested in yet. It's like, oh wait, hold on. Does it feel the same? Is it creaking a little bit different? Is it bumping a little bit different on this way? You feel so. There's little mental aspects of it as well. I think personally they would let Sargent drive again, or they would let Sargent drive this time, just because of fairness. I mean, like I said, James Vowles came out this past week and said, we got all the confidence in Logan. Logan is our guy still. I mean, take that for what it is at this point, but I would go with that. They said they would probably stick with Logan this week if that same thing happened.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think probably they made the decision the moment they thought would give them a better chance to score points. They didn't score points, and you highlight some of the reasons why. Hey, it's not. Albon might be the faster driver. Is he the faster driver in Sargent's car? It's more debatable. Exactly. And once you start getting into those, well, maybe not things, it should default to whose fault is this?
Yeah.
And it was not Logan Sargent's.
Not at all.
And you know what? They didn't score the points anyway, so it's a decision that didn't work. Part of that's playing the result, but part of it's also, like you highlighted, putting someone into a car that's not their car, even if it's the same, team, it's still a different feel to it. It's gonna hurt their performance some. And look, the Williams car is not very good, so
no,
it's not exactly surprising that they didn't score points. So to me, it was not the reason. I don't think it was worth
the
trying
PR.
The PR and spending the entire weekend explaining like why they made that decision, and which I think anyone would agree is a decision they're making that they're saying is in the best interest of the team because they're trying to score points, but also is fundamentally unfair. So, and so now they're saying, we're being unfair because it's in the best interest of the team, and having to explain that away and then not score points. And as Kraft says, it's kind of embarrassing. Then they come out, they don't score, even though there were 3 DNFs and they finished 11th. So they weren't really even close. They weren't really even close to scoring points.
Exactly.
So to do that, and then, they haven't scored a point this year. So it's not like they had like a super competitive car, or, where towards the end of the season, there's like a driver standings place online, in which case you could easier justify it. To me, it was bizarre that they didn't punish the driver that made the mistake.
Yeah.
I don't believe we would see again, because, one of the things that they have talked about is like, we're still we got the chassis fixed. It's back. We're still in the same situation. I think they're the only team without a spare car.
Yeah, they are.
Usually teams bring spare cars, so they don't have one. As you pointed out in the last show, like they didn't build one yet, so they don't have one anywhere.
Which makes no sense. I mean, I get it. Williams is still technically, an independent team. It's a smaller team. It's one of the it's a traditional team. It's a historical team. We all know this, but at the end of the day, like that, it's almost unprofessional at this point. We're going into the fifth race, and they still don't have a third chassis. They still don't have a backup car. Like, I'm sure Red Bull has probably churned out 15 cars by now just to try to make everything right. Exaggerating, but
and obviously they do have some of the spare parts, but it is pretty. And they're owned by like a wealth fund now, so it's not like they're broke like they used to be. It's not coming out of
Dorrington Capital, I think it is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's not like it's coming out of Frank Williams' pocket at this point. Someone somewhere made the decision not to do it. And you know what? Part of this might also be, hey, maybe
Cost
we
cap.
don't need it. We can comply with the cost cap better this way because everyone has that cap. But they said they are in the process of building the third one, so they'll have a spare. But at this point, they are, they both those drivers got to be nervous because it's something that they obviously knew about the whole, as they're going through testing, the limited testing they do get in the first couple of races. But now when you're faced with the reality of it, I think in the back of their head, they'd be thinking, I got to be a little bit more cautious. I can't if I damage this car, that's it. It's not a great way to be approaching your racecraft.
No, for sure. And especially if like we said, it might rain this weekend, that would be interesting. You got one of those guys comes out on slick tires and starts to rain at one of the curves and they go right off the edge of the racetrack into a wall, and it would just be disappointing. It would be, again, it's disappointing to see stuff like that. It's disappointing to see when teams aren't prepared, when, they came into the year, I think it was 2019 or 2018, where they didn't even have a car ready for the start of the year. They couldn't even make it to testing on time. And, again, it's one of those things that these are the most professional teams in the world. Why can't they have something like that? Is it a decision? Was it a decision to spread out the cost cap a little bit, like you said, save the money? But at the end of the day, like I said, they're going to let these guys drive. They're going to let them push it. They have to, because if they're not, then there's no point of them even being on the grid.
Yep. No, we'll see what happens. I do think if there's some kind of an incident involving Albon that his car is incapacitated, I can't imagine they tell Sargent to sit it out again.
No.
All right. So the other kind of news item in the last week is shake up at McLaren, which things have been going well there, so kind of unexpected. But David Sanchez, who came in from Ferrari, was kind of a big coup for them to steal him over the summer, is out. He was the technical director, car concept and performance. That has now gone to Rob Marshall, who had come in from Red Bull, and he's assumed those extra roles as well. He's taken on part of them, and then they've kind of spread the rest of the roles around to the rest of the team. But what do you think is, obviously, look, we don't know the inner. All these guys have titles. They're all very important. Yeah. We don't know who exactly does what, within an organization. And each of these teams is structured differently. But what do you think is going on here? Because this is a team that is, I would say, doing as well as they could have expected to start the year. It's not when what do they call this point? Alpine fires everyone. You're like, look at this car. I get it. Right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
This one seems a little bit odd. What do you think's going on here?
It might just be a difference in the way that these guys are meshing with each other. You hire all these. The thing about all these Formula One teams, they all hire from other teams. It's one of these situations of there's all these teams that are all in basically the same area. I think, what is it, 8 or 9 or no, 6 or 7 of the teams are all literally within like 30 or 40 miles of each other, right in the south of England. And so all these drivers, all these teams, all these engineers, all these mechanics and all that stuff, they all hire from within the same or the same pool of people, and maybe they just didn't mesh well. Maybe they didn't, maybe the concept that he brought from Ferrari and the thought processes that he brought in from Ferrari weren't working as well as they thought that they were going to. Mind you, again, like you mentioned, McLaren's doing pretty dang good this year. It's not like they're a backmarker team. It's not like it was last year, where they start off the year thinking that the whole car needed to be completely, redesigned and they had to fix it by the middle or by the summer break. This car is running good. I mean, as evident, Lando's got, how many, he's got 2 podiums, I think, or 1 podium so far this year. And Oscar Piastri's up there in the points. They're 3rd in the constructors, if I'm not mistaken. 3rd or 4th in constructors, I'm sure we'll see later on. You're still muted.
They're 3rd and a clear 3rd.
They're third in the constructors. I mean, think about it. They're ahead of Mercedes in the constructors with their engine. I mean, you don't see that a lot. You don't see a lot where the main manufacturer of the engine provider is behind one of their partner teams, one of their customer teams. And McLaren's doing great. So it's like, there has to be something in the background, whether they didn't mesh well, whether he wasn't, I'm not going to say a good team member or something like that, but whether, they just something didn't fit right and something didn't work well. And I mean, that's got to be what it is, for them to make that decision. And you're putting in, Rob Marshall in there, and he's gonna, hopefully do good. Coming from Red Bull, we all know what kind of organization that is. We all know that that's the top of the hill right now. And I guess we'll see how it works out. At the end of the day, these are all background things that the normal F1 fan doesn't get the notifications for, doesn't see the big difference in, but the little things like this that at the end of the day will make the team better or make the team worse, and we'll see how it works out.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. And don't know how much he did embed. Again, it was kind of a winter signing, so he might not have really, like you said, meshed well. All right. Now we'll go back to the running order. So which drivers are you looking to key in on this weekend?
I'm going to sound like a broken record again, but I think Carlos Sainz is going to be on a tear again. I think he's, he did great last week, and with that situation from Max, with Max, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, with Max, getting out, and he just ran away with it. I think that boosted up a lot of confidence in him. I think that made him, kind of say that he can do this. He's not just the back runner to Charles. He's not just a back runner to anybody. He can lead a race and win a race and, go there, get to that level. But at the end of the day, I think Max is still gonna be the one that's gonna be heads and shoulders above everybody else. We all know, they're still running Honda engines. And this is a Honda track. This is a track that he's traditionally done great in. This is a track that the team, or that any team with a Honda engine has traditionally run great in. Maybe not so much AlphaTauri, but maybe they'll be a little bit better this week because it's at this track. Or I'm sorry, RB Visa, Cash App.
Yeah, Cash App, whatever other sponsors they've cut onto there.
Exactly. Whatever else they want to add on to the text. But yeah, I think Max is gonna we'll get into this with predictions, but they're gonna run good. Red Bull is gonna run good. Ferrari is gonna run good. Hopefully McLaren will be up there as well. We'll see how it works out. I and like I said, I want to see Carlos Sainz, up there fighting. I think that this is going to be the storyline of the year. I think it's going to be, one of the better stories of the year is to see how he's reacting to everything that's going on around him. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of extra things going on all around him. And this could be one of those situations where, he comes out and shines. And hopefully this week is another week that he's going to be able to show that.
Yeah, no, for me, the driver I'm looking at is Ricardo. Look, everyone knows the RB is not good this year, but it's kind of gone under the radar that Tsunoda has been way better than him.
Oh, yeah.
This is
for sure.
Tsunoda's home track. He's going to have fans behind him, opportunity for him to really just distance himself from Ricardo, in that there's been a bit of a disappointment. We know the car's not good, but you expect him to be his teammate. He's been pretty consistent behind him, so that's the driver I'm watching. For the team, it's Ferrari. Can they capitalize? Again, everyone knows Sainz when it was a 1-2 in Australia. Like, that was their race. Can they keep that going for another weekend here? And if they do, they'll take over the championship lead. And if Carlos wins, he'll be leading the drivers' championship. So again, Max is the favorite, of course, but that's to me the interesting team to watch, which I guess leads nicely into predictions. So as I mentioned earlier, I do have Jazz's predictions. So his top three are.
Let's hear it.
Are we ready here?
Yep, let's hear it.
It is Max to win, Leclerc second, Sainz third.
So another double podium.
Yeah, double podium with Max on top, and his surprise is Piastri over Norris.
Okay, that's not bad.
Which actually, I mean. So
it could definitely happen.
Yeah, Norris is ahead of. I mean, Piastri is ahead of Norris in the driver's standings, which is funny. But That's due to some Norris has had some reliability issues, so it's not been on pace. So I think Jazz is saying on pace. That'll happen.
Well,
Right,
I mean,
what have you got for us?
The one thing about McLaren though is they've really been splitting the strategies all year. Have
That's
you
true.
noticed that too? It's like they
that
have
is very
really been
true.
splitting the strategies. It's like they'll have one go on, and they'll have one come in early. You see that sometimes with these teams, but not a lot at the top. At the top, it's they got a strategy, they're running with it, they go with it. Red Bull, they bring in one, they bring in the other. Ferrari, they bring in one, they bring in the other, unless they just make some crazy decision, which they've been known to do. But McLaren this year, it's been kind of interesting how they've really just been splitting them up. It's like they're trying things, they're trying stuff out. But so my predictions, I'm gonna go. I gotta go Max to win. But I do have an interesting thing. I think Sergio is gonna come in second. I think Sergio Perez is going to come in second, just because I think he's going to have a bounce back from Australia. Again, this is another track that the Honda teams do really well in, and I think it's going to be Max and then Sergio. But I also think that it's going to be another podium for Lando Norris. I want to see how Ferrari does, but I don't know if they're going to have it 100% this week. I think that they're going to be up there.
It is a very different track from Australia, so
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that I want to see how they do. I want to see how he comes back. We'll see how he qualifies, but I don't think that they're going to have it quite as much during the race. I think that you're going to see McLaren fighting with them throughout the weekend, and you're going to see how this all shapes out. My surprise though is, I think that Tsunoda will be in the top 8.
Wow, top 8. Huh?
I'm gonna go Yuki in the top 8.
You think there's gonna be DNFs? You think the pace is gonna be there?
I think there's gonna be a couple DNFs. Could be your boy. We'll see who you predict to be on the podium, and maybe there might be a DNF there on the last lap, calling for a red flag. But no, I just think, again, we were saying how Yuki has had good pace, this year in a car that shouldn't be there. And I think that he's going to be motivated coming into Japan. I think again, the Honda cars just tend to be a little bit better when it comes to having them on that island, at that track. The Honda cars seem to just have an extra gear or have an extra few horsepower. So we'll see how it works out. I'm going to say Yuki in the top 8 to my surprise.
All right. Yeah. No, it's definitely a possibility. So to recap, you got Max, Checo, Lando, and Yuki top 8. Jazz had Max, Leclerc, Sainz, and Piastri over Norris. I'm gonna mix it up here. I'm gonna go Carlos to win his second consecutive race. He's on a redemption tour here. He's out of a drive, but he's still winning races. I got Max second, and I got Piastri third.
Oh.
And then surprise George Russell DNF. I gotta go back on the horse.
Now he's gonna end up on the podium. You realize this, right?
CCH Thursday. We're doing baseball there. It was supposed to be tonight. Jazz had a last minute work commitment, which is why he's also not here. So we'll be doing baseball on Thursday. Still waiting for the Canes to score a run. It's been 2 games. But so for those that are not remembering, my prediction for the last race was Logan Sargent would finish ahead of Alex Albon, and Williams pulled him out of the race to take his car.
Which was great.
And then I had George Russell on the podium, so of course he wrecked his car.
Red flag.
I mean, he was lying in the middle of the track. They probably should have red flagged it. But so your sister coming through with the Red Bull 1-2 with Sainz, and then Norris is the wild card. What about Norris? What do we say Lando's going to do here?
She'll probably say something.
I mean, we haven't scored a run in like 2 games, so there's a lot to rant about, but you'll still be able to do that on Thursday. Yep. So it should be a fun race, like you said, Evan. Right. It's a classic track. It's good racing on this track. The weather should make it a little tricky too, so it should be Should be an exciting race. Hopefully, everyone will wake up for it. Again, that's this weekend. For the qualifying is at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, and the race is Sunday at 1 a.m. And then next week we'll be back to recap that. The next race after Japan is China in 2 weeks. So kind of spreading them out a little bit now with after all those back-to-backs to start. China's another interesting track, but we'll get into that in a couple of weeks before we preview that. Evan, anything else you want to throw out there as we wrap up here?
No, I mean, I just, it's an exciting week. Suzuka Week is always an exciting week. So I'm just glad that I'll be able to watch it big screen, nice and easy, have it all up and open, so, but it's going to be a fun week and I can't wait to get into it.
Yep. All right. So again, thanks everyone for watching. We do have just a couple of plugs. We have Buckets tomorrow night at 9. Baseball show at Canes on deck, which apparently CCH wants me to monologue into the screen. It's Thursday night, and then we'll have 6 Rings next Monday. We'll be previewing the scrimmage, and then back for this show right here next Tuesday. So join us next week. We'll be recapping the Japanese Grand Prix. Come on, Carlos. We want a championship race here.
Yep. There you go.
All right. See y'all. Take care.
All right. Bye.